Argentina's new Minister of Economy, Productive Development and Agriculture, Sergio Massa, introduced a new program focused on four axes to strengthen the economy. Also, at least 5 people were killed and 6 injured after a bombing in the center of the self-proclaimed Republic of Donetsk. And also on Thursday, in a grim coincidence, several more grain silos damaged by the 2020 Beirut port explosion collapsed as hundreds marched towards them to mark the second anniversary of the disaster. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In Argentina, after being sworn in, the new Minister of Economy, Productive Development and Agriculture, Sergio Massa, introduced a new program focused on four axes to strengthen the economy. The cornerstone of the new plan is to recover and to strengthen the nation's reserves and to reduce the deficit in order to comply with the guidelines proposed in the agreement signed with the International Monetary Fund. Massa referred to the exchange gap and the evolution of the official exchange rate, in which he agreed with the Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner and pointed out that Argentina has a bi-monetary system. Sergio Massa ruled out the possibility of implementing peso depreciation measures, for it will negatively impact the population.
The set of policies and measures with which we are going to work at this stage aims to combat this scourge. I came to try to contribute with common sense to the decisions that Argentina must take, some of which we may like more or less, but that will eventually contribute to build a better future. We will look at the productive economic standing on two axes, one of principles and the other of power engines.
In Ecuador, the indigenous movement made an evaluation this Wednesday of the dialogue process with the government of Guillermo Lasso. At a press conference, Indigenous Confederation President Leonidas Issa assured that the dialogue has made little progress.
We are here, the three organizations. We have analyzed 4 points today. One is the general evaluation of almost a month of dialogue. The second is what has come out of these dialogue tables. The third is the follow-up to what has been discussed at the dialogue tables. And the fourth is the planning of the other tables that are still pending. On the first point, there is a positive assessment, but nevertheless, the time has been so long in terms of information and a concrete response, we do not have it.
Indigenous leader Leonidas Issa also referred to the issue of credits and the financial relief for the population and demanded a follow-up to ensure compliance with the results requested in the dialogues.
The second issue has been one about credit and financial relief, but nevertheless for people, in practice there is nothing yet. Therefore, there has been a plan for next week, exclusively a meeting with the entities involved. The national government must ensure the procedure, in this case, for how we will follow up, and the agreements are already established. But people go with the resolution to a financial institution. They are simply not giving any answer.
The government of Bolivia has created spaces for dialogue for the development of the population and the housing census for 2024, in which the 9 governorates, indigenous peoples, and other institutions will be participating. President Luis Arce has met with governors of the different departments and directors of the public universities to work on the socialization of the technical aspects of the census schedule. For its part, the country's right wing announced a strike in rejection of the postponement of the census to the year 2023. However, the dialogue continues to develop with the entities and other sectors of society.
We regret that in these 3 spaces for dialogue, the only authority that has missed these dialogue scenarios has been the governor of the Department of Santa Cruz, who has not participated in the meeting of the National Council of Autonomies. However, in the other 3 scenarios, we have had a broad participation, both from representatives of the municipalities, 8 of the 9 governors, and directors of our public universities. In this framework, Several agreements have been reached. The first agreement has been reached with directors of the public universities to be able to carry out and discuss the participation of the universities in two areas in the statistical mapping update and in the day of the census itself.
Actualización cartográfica estadística y en la
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. The Opera and Ballet Theatre, as well as a hotel in the center of the self-proclaimed Donetsk Republic, have been bombed. According to official preliminary reports, at least 5 people were killed and 6 injured during the attack. The center of the city of Donetsk came under attack on Thursday, when the Opera and Ballet Theatre, where the funeral of Colonel Olga Kashura has to be held, was shelled. A RIA Novosti correspondent reported that the anti-aircraft defense system was activated, which could not prevent at least 2 shells from hitting the theater. In addition, the Donbass Palace Hotel, occupied mainly by journalists, was also hit by the fire and the explosion. And testimonies about these attacks in the Donbas region keep pouring in. This time, and from central Donetsk, TeleSUR's special envoy Alejandro Kirk talks to Canadian activist Ivo Bartlett.
Tell me what happened here.
Yeah, my timing's a bit wonky, but anyway, I was working when I heard the first blast, and it was louder than normal. So I had messaged a friend at the time, and I said it sounded like it wasn't outgoing because the car alarms don't usually go off when there's outgoing fire. And then there was a second one, and after the third one, I decided to come here to the lobby, just because it was safer than staying in a room. And then I was in this lobby when this damage occurred. I had just, by chance, I had gone to the toilet at the very moment that this occurred. If I'd been here, I don't know, it'd probably be shredded with glass. And then there was another 1 or 2, I can't remember now, it's all kind of hazy. But the point being, this is central Donetsk, and also today there was a funeral for a well-known and well-beloved Gorlovka fighter or leader, and the funeral was taking place just about a block north of here. So it's believed they were targeting the funeral. I would not put it past them to also target this hotel intentionally. It is known that many journalists stay here, and of course by targeting journalists, Ukraine can keep people from documenting its war crimes, which are manifold.
So what's the meaning of this? What did they try to say?
Well, if indeed it was intentionally targeting journalists, then they're trying to silence any voices, that are reporting on their war crimes.
We'll move on to other topics. 1 Azeri and 2 Armenian soldiers were killed in Azerbaijan in new clashes near the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh. The information was provided by the authorities of the self-proclaimed Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh, who also said that the attack also left 14 people wounded. According to the Azerbaijani army, its troops carried out a mission called Operation Revenge against the Nagorno-Karabakh militias that were trying to establish themselves in the combat positions. The Nagorno-Karabakh region is disputed by Armenia and Azerbaijan, which accuse each other of engaging in military provocations in the region and violating the agreement signed in 2020 with the mediation of Russia. This country maintains a peacekeeping force on the ground, which reported that steps are being taken to de-escalate the situation.
Members of illegal Armenian armed groups on the territory of Azerbaijan, where the Russian peacekeeping contingent is temporarily deployed, grossly violated the provisions of the November 10, 2020 declaration and committed a terrorist and sabotage act against Azerbaijani army units on August 3rd.
Primary school teachers in Rwanda will get an 88% pay rise starting in August as part of the country's incentives aimed at improving teachers' livelihoods. The country's education ministry announced on its official Twitter page on Monday that under these new revisions, secondary school teachers will also see their pay increase by 40%. Even though Rwanda has increased teachers' salaries by 10% since March 2019, over 1,000 teachers reportedly leave their profession monthly in search for better welfare. The new pay rise is part of a package that will incorporate incentives to improve the welfare of the teachers and promote the equality and the quality of education in public and government-aided schools for general education, technical and vocational education and training. Now we address other topics. Amidst the current heat wave in Germany, a large fire broke out on Thursday in a popular forest in western Berlin, following an explosion in a police munitions storage site. Firefighters have so far only been able to begin tackling 2 of the 4 fires in the area around the munition storage, which a bit over a square kilometer. So far, no one has been hurt by the fires. Berlin firefighters have brought in army tanks to prevent the fire from spreading any further. Several regional rail lines have been halted. Climate change is making heat waves around the world more frequent and more intense, which increases the risk of fires. The German Weather Service, however, said that heavy thunderstorms are due to sweep into the country from the west on Friday and that a cold front is expected to bring temperatures down by more than 10 degrees in western Germany over the weekend. After several days of intense seismic activity, a volcano erupted in Iceland on Wednesday, 40 kilometers from the capital Reykjavik, spewing red-hot lava and plumes of smoke out of a fissure in an inhabited valley. The eruption was near the site of the Mount Fagradalsfjall volcano in southwest Iceland, which erupted for 6 months, March through the September last year, mesmerizing tourists and spectators who flocked to the scene. On Wednesday, a strip of flowing red lava could be seen gushing from the ground, spouting 20 to 30 meters into the air before spreading into a blanket of smoldering black rock. The Icelandic Meteorological Office, which monitors seismic activity, estimated the size of the fissure at about 300 meters. Iceland's foreign ministry said on Twitter that risk to populated areas and the critical infrastructure is considered very low, and there have been no disruptions to flights. Gases from volcanic eruptions, especially sulfur dioxide, can be elevated in the immediate vicinity, and it may also be carried by the wind. Such gases may pose a danger to the health and even be fatal.
So you have the craters open, you have the lava fountain, and then like the flowing lava that is actually also shoving the sand and the land in front of itself. So this is really spectacular. I really like it.
In Bosnia and Herzegovina, firefighters combat the flames in the village of Hutovo. Volunteer firefighters battle a forest fire in the outskirts of Neum, the only Bosnian city on the Adriatic coast. Several dozen hectares of land have been devastated by the fire since Tuesday, including olive and fig plantations, as well as many bee colonies. The region has been affected for the past 3 months by drought, which favors the spread of the fires.
We have fires around Hutobo almost every year. It hasn't rained for 3 months, and when a fire breaks out under these circumstances, it is difficult to contain it. It has not rained for 3 months, and it is difficult, impossible to preserve the affected land.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. crisis hit Lebanon marks 2 years on Thursday since the massive explosion ripped through the Beirut, with victims' relatives still demanding truth and justice. The port-side blast of stored ammonium nitrate, one of the biggest ever known nuclear explosions, killed more than 200 people, wounded thousands more, and decimated vast areas of the capital. Yet an investigation into the cause has been stalled amid political interference, and no state official has yet been held accountable for the August 4, 2020 tragedy, prompting rights defenders and some victims' families to demand an international probe. The mega blast was a nightmarish moment in the chaotic history of Lebanon, which is mired in its worst ever economic crisis, marked by blackouts, runaway inflation, and widespread despair. And on Thursday, in a grim coincidence, several more grain silos damaged by the 2020 Beirut port explosion collapsed, as hundreds marched towards them to mark the second anniversary of the disaster. Parts of the damaged structure fell down, while local media said at least 4 towers had collapsed, only days after a similar incident. Experts had been warning for days that the silos could collapse immediately after recording unprecedented inclination rates. The heavily damaged silos have become a grim reminder of the August 4, 2020 explosion, and experts have warned that parts of the silos are at risk of collapse due to severe damage and inclination. In April, the government ordered the silos demolition, but this has been suspended, partially because of objections from 3 victims' relatives who want them preserved as a memorial. China's Central Television released images of rocket launches in areas around Taiwan. The reports said the military drill that Beijing launched Tuesday night near Taiwan in response to the visit of the U.S. House of Representatives and Speaker Nancy Pelosi to the island, including the use of advanced weapons such as the DF-17 hypersonic missiles. Also, Dongfeng ballistic missiles were launched, something that, according to the Chinese press, is unprecedented in simulations in the vicinity of Taiwan. In this regard, Taiwan's Defense Ministry reported corroborated the launching of the missiles by China. U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi discusses regional security in Seoul after her chance visit to Taipei. Pelosi met with her South Korean counterpart Kim Jin-pyo in Seoul on Thursday to discuss the security situation in the region after her chance visit to Taiwan. Local news agency Yonhap reported that at the meeting they discussed not only security issues but also economic cooperation. Pelosi, who will soon hold a joint press conference with Kim to give more details about the meeting, is scheduled to speak by telephone with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. Her agenda in South Korea also includes a visit to the village of Panmunjom, bordering North Korea. And in Japan, TEPCO, the company that operates the damaged Fukushima nuclear power plant, announced its intention to begin laying an underwater pipeline today to gradually dump more than 1 million tons of radioactive water into the sea. Japan plans to dump Fukushima water, which they say has been pre-treated to reduce most radioactive substances. However, the announcement has raised concern in Russia, China, the 2 Koreas, as well as among inhabitants of the municipalities neighboring the nuclear plant, fishermen's unions, and environmental organizations that warn about damage it could cause to the ecosystems. The dumping will be done 1 kilometer away from the coast, starting in 2023, and is expected to take about 30 years to complete. A new round of negotiations over the Iranian nuclear deal restarted in Vienna. On Thursday, officials from world powers and Iran are meeting in the Austrian capital for the first time since March, when negotiations stalled, negotiations that had begun in 2021 to reintegrate the United States into the agreement. In a last-ditch effort, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell submitted a compromise proposal last month and called on the parties to accept it to avoid a dangerous nuclear crisis. The talks stalled back in 2018 when the former U.S. President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew from the talks, putting a halt to the progress in achieving a nuclear deal. Currently, Iran demands that the U.S. lift the sanctions in exchange for it downgrading its nuclear program. Senegalese opposition coalitions agreed on Wednesday to challenge the results of the legislative elections held the day before, which were won by the alliance-supported President Macky Sall. As soon as the results were known, Barthélemy Diaz, spokesperson for the "We as Can We coalition, Save the People in the Wolof language, described them as a vulgar lies and a prefabricated majority. This, despite the fact that the consultation took place without incidents, with the presence of 22,000 observers appointed by the government, in addition to those sent by the Economic Community of West African states. The contest resulted in the victory of the government forces in 30 of the 46 constituencies.
We asked the President of the National Commission of the Census of Votes to suspend the publication of the results scheduled for tomorrow at 5 p.m. to allow the opposition intercoalition to review the results poll by poll. We can even do it in public session, so that the Senegalese people can see with us the irregularities that are unacceptable. There are reports that have no signatures, neither from the administration nor from the representatives of the coalition, and it is unacceptable that these reports are validated.
So we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.